Hi, I'm sitting here with ARIYA BANOMYONG, the Managing Director of Line in Thailand. As the Managing Director of Line in Thailand and the former country head of Google and the Chief Commercial Officer of the True Corporation, I think you have a really unique perspective on the mobile space, but also on the full technology space in Thailand. I would actually make the case that nobody that I know here actually has had a view onto what's going on here that similar or competes to yours. And I would say, thank you very much for coming and sitting with us. In that context, can you give us some insight into why a service like Line has grown so much faster in Thailand than any of its competitors, but also in the rest of the region as well? I find that really interesting that some of the other competitors have just kind of been washed away.
I think that's a very good question. I think, first of all, one thing that you need to understand is if you take a step back, the uptake of chat in general,
right.
I think that's been really amazing. And Thailand has seen something like very special, because a couple of years back, it all started with BBM.
PBM?
Right? BBM.
BBM, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So everyone was on BlackBerry.
Right.
And then suddenly everyone changed to WhatsApp. And then suddenly everyone changed to Line. And hopefully suddenly they don't change to something else.
They won't change to something else.
Right. But nothing, we can't take that for granted. And if you ask me why it's been so successful, is for, obviously I would have to say stickers.
Right.
And it might sound like funny, especially if your audience is not from this region.
Right.
Because during my days at Google, we had these discussions. And when I was trying to explain why Line is so successful in Thailand, I said stickers, people were like, what? What do you mean?
So
stickers.
Why do you think the stickers are so much more important here? Like, I think I know why, but I'm curious, than they would be, let's say, in the United States or in Europe. I try to explain this to my friends, and they're lost.
I think that there are a couple of reasons. First of all, the sticker is just it's a fun way to communicate.
For sure.
Yeah, and it represents. It's a really nice way to represent your emotion.
Yes.
So sometimes you can't send an emotion just by writing something.
Right.
But the sticker is a great tool. Is a great way to be able to send an emotion.
Right.
So I think that's the one thing that it does really well.
Super well.
Right? And in a very cute way,
right?
Which is very Asian.
Very Asian, for sure.
That's very Asian. So that's the one thing that Line came up with before anyone else.
I know.
And that's something that it did really well.
It still dominates.
Yeah. And the second thing is more generally about chat. I think what explains the success of chat. For me, chat is the real social network.
It is. I agree.
Because if you think about social network and the way we use it today,
right.
when I do a post, I tell you I'm right now at Echelon, or I'm having a drink, or I'm buying this,
right.
or I'm doing that.
Right.
It's me telling people.
Right.
It's not me asking someone from people, asking anything from people. It's more like almost like it's you telling, and sometimes you're telling strangers as
right.
well. But chat is different because when you chat, you're chatting with friends, with people you know, and if you look at the groups that you set up in your chat app, it's actually reflective of your real social network.
Exactly, because you're not chatting with people you don't know.
Yeah, so it's you have like a group with university friends,
right.
friends from the office, and so on and so forth. And even in the office, now it's like you have a group with your boss and a group without your boss.
Right. You segregate those things just to make sure that.
But it's reflective of your actual social network.
I think that's actually a really good point. I don't think most people think about it that way. But in that context, when I'm on some other social network, I don't know who's looking at it.
Yeah.
But if I'm chatting with you to make plans or just to tell you what I'm doing, it's with you, with a selected group of people. Much more powerful for me. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's grown so fast. Very interesting. So based on all this experience that you've had in tech and in mobile, can you go back up a little bit and just say maybe in the last 3 or so years, what's changed so much? And in the context of Echelon as well, right? The first time I was here was 700 people. Now it's thousands of people. So what's changed in tech and then what's changed to get people so interested in it?
The internet. The penetration.
The penetration. Mobile penetration is so huge, right?
Because when I opened up the office for Google 4 years ago,
right.
the internet penetration was like like we were still in the not even the tens of millions,
No.
right? But one thing that we knew, or people in the industry would could sort of anticipate, is the growth is just going to go this way.
Absolutely.
It's going to be exponential.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that personally I've been preaching for the past 4 years.
Good for you.
And me moving from Google to Line doesn't change what I believe in.
No way.
I've always believed in mobile, and the numbers right now are proving me right.
Right. I mean, the mobile penetration here in some cases is higher than it is in the United States or in other Western countries.
It's not only higher, but it's most important. It's higher than the desktop internet penetration.
By far.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the key trends that sometimes if you talk to a company, they will still think about creating a website and saying no, start from mobile and then go to desktop.
Absolutely.
Because you need to nail mobile.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we looked at things back in 2011, 2012 and said, with the onset of 4G and LTE, mobile usage, which was already high, was going to explode. Yeah. And that's what's happening.
And in Thailand, we just concluded the 4G auction just 10 days ago.
Right.
So what's going to happen next year is you're going to see a next wave of growth.
Absolutely.
So right now we have 40 million users on mobile internet, so accessing the internet from mobile.
Right.
And it's going to grow to 50, 60, 70 million in the next 2-3 years.
It's a really interesting comment. And when I look at the market development from a VC perspective as an investor, mobile first, maybe even app first, right? Because that's where I think most of the stuff is going to be.
And I think it's very tricky because when you think about a mobile phone, it's a screen this small, right?
Yep.
So nailing the customer experience on the screen this small, it's when you have a laptop, you have like so much real estate. You have a 13-inch screen,
right?
So much more real estate. But suddenly you have like 5-inch screen. How do you do that?
How do you do it? And still make the user experience and the user interface useful enough for everybody else.
And I would argue, how do you make it even better than on desktop?
I completely understand, and it's always with you as well. Right? Exactly. So you can't really carry this with you all the time, even though I try. But having this thing in your pocket all the time means it's always on, always available, and always connected. Really important. And I was going to ask you in general terms, but now maybe I'll ask more specifically, are there things you see coming in the future? The past is interesting always to talk about. I'm much more interested in what you think is going to happen over the next 3 years as well. It's going to change what we already know and understand.
I think on a 3-year sort of period, it's hard to predict.
For sure.
But a couple of things comes to my mind. First of all, even though we're in a mobile first sort of era, we're not quite there yet. And what I mean by that is if you look at the user experience on a mobile phone, and I always take this example because people can relate to that. When you want to buy something today, you probably go look at pictures on Instagram or on Facebook, right? So I really like this bag or these shoes or whatever. Then you talk to the seller through Line. Right? Say, I want this size. Do you have this available? How much does it cost? And then you transfer money either through your e-banking application or you go to the ATM machine.
Right.
Because remember, we're in Thailand.
So I completely understand. Cash on delivery,
is,
all that type of stuff
still
is
king.
high, yeah.
And so what happens is you go through like three distinct stages to make one purchase.
And they're all in disparate applications, right?
Yeah. And you have to switch back and forth. So how do we streamline that? How do we make it like more user friendly for consumers?
Right.
Actually, right now people are working their way out, and it works. But we can do better than this.
Absolutely.
We can do better than this. So I think that's the first thing that I'd like to see, and that's something that Line we're trying to do is, how do we merge that experience and put it under chat?
Right, so that the purchase, the payment, and the settlement and the delivery just happens
right there.
Right, so the customer doesn't even know.
So I think that's the first big trend that I think I'd like to see happen. The user experience has to be much better. And the second point is, and related to that, think about the number of apps you have on your phone today. Right. There's a proliferation of apps.
There really is, isn't there?
And there's a new app like every day. And how do you use all these apps? How many do you use? And so I don't have the answer how it's going to change, but I think something is going to have to change, so that we make it like much more convenient for users.
And much more consolidated. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think those experiences have to come together to the point where purchasing something is really just like pressing a button, or even just taking a picture of it, something like that, and then the back end just happens.
Yeah. And the third thing I think is going to happen is it's kind of funny to say that because e-commerce is still quite nascent in this region
for sure.
But I already think that it's going to have to change.
Massively consolidate, I think.
Not just consolidation, but I think the way we do e-commerce as well. Because right now, e-commerce is already like the way we do e-commerce is already like in a way a traditional way. Right?
20 years old.
Yeah. So you're doing e-commerce through a website, through an app.
Right.
But think about this: what does a consumer do? Right. When you want to buy something online, you don't go to one website.
No.
Right. You go to, if you're in Thailand, you probably go. You check on Lazada, you check on Lightroom, you check on TEERANUM.
Yep.
If you buy something from the US, you definitely check both eBay and Amazon.
For sure.
Right. So, the loyalty of loyalty is consumers these days already have a very low level of loyalty, but online is making it so easy for them to just switch.
Right. Like in the old days in a physical store, it was hard to go into one store, go out, go back in and check prices or check service or quality. But now
it's so easy.
Just a click away.
It's so easy. It's really a click away. So I think e-commerce or m-commerce is probably going to have to morph into something else, and especially with people spending so much time on chat, how can that's a reflection that we're having. How can we how can we leverage what's happening into coming up with what could be the next way of doing commerce.
Right. I mean, there's no way that a company like Line, with all of its embedded users, shouldn't be thinking about how to take that commerce. I know you are already, but
we haven't figured it out.
Mainly, it's really hard. It's not a given, right? But that's a really interesting concept. I mean, look, thank you so much. I really appreciate it for spending so much time. And frankly, I'd love to get together again and have a much longer conversation with you about this, if that's amenable to you at some point in the future.
More than happy to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Hi, I'm sitting here with HARPREM DOOWA, the CEO of MOXY in Thailand. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you
It's
too.
been a while.
Yes, it has.
Way too long. My fault, for sure. Look, I've always found your story really interesting. We've talked about it a bit, but I'd like a little bit more detail. Can you talk a bit about how your original idea about kind of a pet-centered community turned into Pet Loft?
Yeah, so...
How many pets do you have, by the way?
I've got 4 pets. I've got 2 dogs, 2 cats.
Wow.
But I've had many other pets before. I've even had a goat.
Yeah, had a goat.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You like animals.
Not a normal thing to have. Yes,
No.
I love animals, always have. And so it originally started from a startup weekend. You go there with no idea, you meet new people, and then we came up with Fluffy, which was a social network for pets.
I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, and we came up with it at the event itself, doing like an icebreaker thing. So from that icebreaker, we'd start up the idea, 3-day weekend, came second place.
Was this one of those like kind of marathon sessions?
Yeah, just 24 hours a day. We were there for 3 days. We slept under the tables, woke up at 4 in the morning, started coding and typing everything
Pretty good
in
idea,
again.
though.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a need for it. Start off with that, and then at the event, we came second place. And after that, a VC firm, Ardent Capital, wanted to, they really liked what we were pitching, so they called us in. And then,
So was Adrian there?
Adrian wasn't there. It was actually Paul. Paul was there. Yes.
Super.
Yeah. Went in, talked to them, pivoted the idea, started PetLoft.com, and that was instead of being a social network, it was an e-commerce for pets.
So, and it was really that fast.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that really concluded with that whole vision of like what's new going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and back then there was no what's new.
There was no
just
what's new.
PetLoft.com.
Right. So that's the other thing. Like, so PetLoft was really the maiden side of a business that became the what's new business.
Yes.
And just based on this previous conversation, you were literally there from day 0.
Yeah.
Before there really was a what's new, PetLoft kind of became that business. Can you talk a little bit about maybe adding other verticals, but also some of the things you learned as the company really started to grow?
Yeah, I mean, so, okay. petloft.com, you know, obviously you do analytics, you do data, you see who your customers are. We saw a lot of women who are our customers. And what else do women need to buy on a monthly basis? We're like, you know what? A lot of women that are buying our products are at the age of being a mom.
Oh,
so we're
right.
like, okay, let's go into baby products. And we started venb.com.
So Venby then became the sister site to
exactly.
the
And
pet
at that
site.
stage, that's when what's new formed, because you can't just have Petloft separately and Venby separately. We have to have a holding company.
It actually sounds a lot like the Quidsi business in the United States.
So it's actually very much copying that model, actually.
Fair enough.
We're not afraid to say it. We copied the model. It worked there. It worked here.
It continues to work really, really well. So here's the final thing. As a male executive inside a female-centered product business, how do you find the challenge of, you know, product discovery and all the other things that go along with that? I mean, frankly, for me, even when I do this, but even as a venture capitalist, I like to see diversity.
Yeah.
And any kind of diversity for me is good because I think it has better ideas and I think it gels better for me.
Yep.
But again, as a male executive inside a female-centric company, how does that feel every day, and how does it determine like what you do and what you don't do?
I think being married really, really helps.
Fair enough.
You got a basic understanding of women there.
Fair enough.
And I think it also helps the fact that my team, out of like, you know, the 70, 80 people we have in our office, about 70 of them are women.
Is it really that high?
Yes, it's really
That's
that
awesome.
high. You're looking at 92, 93% women. So it's just ingrained in our culture. And obviously, I'm not the one that's doing the buying of the products itself.
Fair enough.
You know, you guide the team, you tell them the direction the company wants to grow in, and the category managers, the buyers, the supply chain team that we have, those are the people behind like helping me do the day-to-day and helping me get the products that women would want to buy from the website.
Fabulous. It feels like it's a really exciting time now in e-commerce in Southeast Asia, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk about really from the beginning to the development of the What's New business and then into the MOXY business, right? That's what it's called today.
Yes, that's what it's called today. So since Venby, we've launched other verticals like, you know, health, vitamins, and supplements, originally called Sanoga, La Fima for beauty, and then we acquired MOXY in December 2014 in order to rebrand the entire What's New group into MOXY because it was a more woman-centric name. And now from here, this point onwards, everything is going to be under MOXY.
That's fabulous. And that's regional as well, right?
That's regional as well. So we're present in Indonesia. We've got about 40 staff there. And if you wait just like, you know, one more week, there's going to be some really big news coming out about us. I can't share that with you yet, but you're going to be excited.
Yeah, I'm on a need-to-know basis, and I don't need to know. Anyway, look, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with us today. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really nice meeting.
Awesome. I'm sitting here with Jerome Lelue. He's the CEO and the founder of WISHBEER. He's, I believe, just started to sell online as well, but this business is about 3 years old. Let's talk to Jerome a little bit and find out about the genesis of this business, how things are going, and where he thinks they're going to go in the future.
Hi, Michael.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
We've met before, but I think it's been such a long time ago.
Yeah.
That we really need to catch up and figure out like where your business was, how it's changed, and maybe where it's going. Do you want to talk a little bit about the beginning?
Sure.
And how you thought originally about selling beer?
Yeah, beer online.
Beer online?
Yeah.
And then talk about, you know, why start the business in Thailand? Will you do regional growth, things like that? Just for me, so I can understand.
Okay. So basically, WISHBEER started with a wish, right? I've been in Thailand for 12 years.
Got it.
And
originally from?
I'm from France.
From France.
And and I've worked as a CFO mostly over the past 12 years in Thailand with some regional roles.
What types of businesses can you carry without saying the names if you don't want to? Can you?
I worked in like retail, manufacturing, freight forwarding. And
a finance background?
Yeah, finance, business school in France.
Got it.
And the last 4 years, actually, like since 2009 to 2014, I worked in a web company.
A web company?
So they were doing like web development. I was CEO and CFO.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I kind of got the culture, the web culture and how to make websites and how it works.
There's a little bit of a bug you get.
Yeah. And
you watch people develop it and you think,
yeah, exactly.
I could do that.
I've been always interested in like the new technologies. And for me, it was like kind of the opportunity to do something myself also.
So why beer?
So, you know,
Are you a big? I don't drink beer.
you know, finance guys, we always think about numbers and stuff, and at some point we get thirsty, right?
At some point we get thirsty. I feel like you've told this story before.
Yeah, it's kind of, but yeah, so I thought, you know, all these great beers from Belgium that you could find in bars and restaurants in Thailand,
But you couldn't buy at home.
but you could never buy them like even in supermarkets. You would never find, you
I
know.
haven't thought about it, but yeah, you couldn't, could you?
So you have like a very limited selection in supermarkets.
So what did you do? You went to the suppliers and tried to get.
So yeah, so that's the idea. I went to all the suppliers of beer in Thailand and created this new channel for them. They were not really selling, and they were not willing to sell their beers online because of mostly of pricing. They were worried that
About
if I sell,
discounting. If it's online, it's
if I sell
discounted.
online, it's going to be cheap. It's, you know, and their main customers is bars and restaurants.
Right, fair enough.
So they wanted the pricing to be consistent.
Right.
And
Because otherwise the bars and
but it
restaurants
worked
would go
out. I mean,
around them.
sorry.
Otherwise, the bars and restaurant would go around.
Not really, but it's more like
That's
for
what
the
they were afraid of.
customer.
That's what they were afraid
Customer
of.
perspective.
Yeah,
Customer would see, oh, why it's 100 baht on WISHBEER and 250 at the bar, right?
Right.
So it would create a bit of confusion. But yeah, we established some trust, and we did like some minimum selling price, so I don't cut the price and stuff like that. And we grew from there.
So how is business now compared to how it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago?
So 3 years ago, when we started, we had like 150 products, maybe 210 suppliers.
Right.
And now we have over 600 products, over 50 suppliers.
Wow.
So that's a lot of logistics to
I was
take
going to
care
say,
of.
who does your back end?
We do. We
You do it by yourself?
yeah,
Do you have your own warehouse?
we do. Yeah.
You have
yeah.
your own warehouse, so it's got to be temperature controlled, right?
Yes.
Is it mostly craft style beers? Am I getting that right? I'm not a beer expert.
Some of them are craft,
So
some are
even the
not
Belgian
craft.
beers are pasteurized, is that right?
Yes.
So it needs to be temperature controlled, otherwise it goes bad.
Yeah, well, control, yes, but it doesn't need to be like at 5 degrees or anything. I mean,
Fair
there are
enough.
just a few beers that we need to keep really cold,
Okay.
so they don't go bad. But most of the beers can be kept at like 20 degrees. It's
Okay.
okay. Yeah, if they don't stay too long, obviously.
Right.
But as we grow, the rotation of the stock is faster, so they don't.
So how is business?
It's doing okay. I mean, takes time.
Of course. Building anything takes
To
time.
build a brand and to get the brand out there. And it's also a niche.
Right.
We specialize in beer, and also in some ways we get lucky because the beer market grew
Your timing was not bad, actually.
immensely since the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, when I first came, there was only one bar that was selling,
Right.
or maybe two, but the other one was way on the other side of town. There's only one bar
Yeah,
selling any kind of interesting beers.
exactly.
And now that franchise is actually quite bigger. But you came at just the right time. As a matter of fact, back then I was actually talking to a supplier in
Okay.
Japan
Yeah.
who's kind of famous about potentially importing their beers here. But again, I'm not a beer guy, so I just couldn't get the passion for it.
Okay.
Even though I used to be finance as well.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, in my little corner of finance, we drank wine,
What did you do before?
trading,
Trading. Okay.
securities trading. Yeah. Well, which part of the finance business were you in besides the CFO? Was all CFO stuff?
Yeah,
style stuff?
mostly CFO.
Yeah, you guys were definitely beer.
Take care of the accounting.
Only the good
and-
stuff.
yeah.
Though. So where do you see it going from here? You've been funded, I presume.
Yeah, 500 Tuk just announced it today.
Today.
So yeah, we're happy.
Should we have a beer?
Yeah, I
celebrate?
wanted to, but
I think that deserves some sort of celebration or some sort of congratulations. Is that your thing?
yeah, we
Good for you.
it's a good it's a good step, and we will be able to grow even faster.
For sure. You've been bootstrapping up until now.
Yeah, definitely.
Even better. Bootstrapped
As a
for 3 years.
CFO, you don't like to spend money, right?
No, for sure. No,
You-
that's the thing, though, right? As a finance guy running a startup business, it's actually perfect because
Yeah.
you sit there and look at costs and go, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'll figure out another way to do it.
Yeah.
But once you get funded, it's the best person to fund because you know you'll take care of that business, and you'll take care of that money, and you'll use your cash efficiently.
I guess that's right.
I think so.
Yeah.
But again, I'm biased, right? Because I come out of the similar background.
Sure.
Everything I do has value associated with it, and I want to keep it that way. So.
Yeah, in some ways, maybe we don't take as much risk as we should.
Maybe from your perspective, right?
Yeah.
But for me, risk was my entire life.
Right.
So everything I do, I build in what's the risk return, what's my upside. You always hear me say something like, "I can do what's my downside."
Sure.
And if my downside is nothing, but I always use this like I think the world is binary in my mind. What does that mean? If I want something from you, or I want to take a risk, I'm at 0.
Yep.
If I do nothing, where am I? Still at 0. If I ask for something or try for something, I may get to 1. I may not. But if I don't do anything, I'm at 0 forever.
Yeah.
That's the risk-reward equation that I look at every day, all day. Whether it's from a VC perspective when I'm investing in something, whether it's building something like WISHBEER, what's my downside? The worst that can happen is I can lose all my investment, and I'm bootstrapping anyway.
Yeah.
Good for you. Really good for you. Really interesting. And you won't do anything besides beer. You won't do like Wish Wine or Wish Spirits or.
Well, that's one of the growth opportunity that we have. Is the revenue we're making on beer, we can definitely do the same in wine, in spirits, and.
Right. I mean, it's slightly different because the taxation of those products is different. People are still buying it.
Sure.
Right, and I'd love to be able to buy wine online.
Yeah.
If there was wishwine.com, as a matter of fact, I wish there was, but if there were, no pun intended, but if there were, I'd buy from it.
Right. Yeah, we're going to work on that. We're going to work on that over the next few months.
You're funded now, so.
Yep, that helps. That will help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Look, I really want to thank you for sitting down.
No problem.
Completely impromptu.
Yeah, thanks a lot for
And don't
inviting
get
me.
I learned something,
Okay.
which is always important for me. Jerome, it's really
Sounds
a pleasure.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for interviewing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I'm sitting here with Thaddeus Ko. Thaddeus is the co-founder and the chief operating officer of E27. E27 runs the largest tech conference in Southeast Asia in multiple countries under the name of Echelon. We're actually at Echelon today, and I'd like to welcome Thaddeus to come and talk with us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
It is more than my pleasure.
Oh,
Really?
always
I mean,
pleasure to be talking and speaking to you. Man.
We've known each other for a while.
Yeah,
But we've
over the
never
years,
had sort of
couple of years, of course.
3 years maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
We've never had a chance really to sit down on a one-on-one basis with time.
Yep.
It's more been like, what's going on there? How can I
Yeah,
fix that? How can I help that? And
Yeah, we constantly bump into each other like founders' drinks and
The
things.
whole
And
time,
thanks for
right?
being a judge here and there.
no, it's always my pleasure. Anything
Yeah.
I can do to support you and the team, I'm super happy to do it. And I think what Echelon has done actually in Southeast Asia is unprecedented.
Yeah.
Its ability to get the whole tech scene
Thanks for that.
together, I think, has been really important. Let's back up a little bit, though.
Sure.
We were talking about this earlier. So you've been at E27 since the beginning,
Yeah.
since it was an idea.
It was kind of started as a network of students.
Okay.
That was the origin actually.
Wow.
And then it slowly became a media first without no events.
Right.
And then slowly events became part of the business because everybody wants to meet. And then we started with 10 people and then we just multiplied every time we
It's a much larger company than that now. So the CEO of E27 is Mohan Belani.
Mohan, yep.
And did you guys go to school together? And if not, where did you meet each other? How did that happen?
we kind of hang out with each other back in the States.
In the States?
Yeah,
Where?
we were in the Valley in 2005 to 2007.
In school or just starting companies?
Not starting company, we were under a school program.
Okay.
We were working full-time in startups. That was when it was the most exciting because Facebook was just starting off.
2005.
Yes.
Wow.
And we have friends working in Facebook and we were like, why are you working in another social network? We have Friendster.
We have MySpace, we have
We have
Friendster,
MySpace.
everything. You guys are
we have
idiots.
MOXY. Yeah. What is this company, man? So that was the part where we really met. We
Right.
hang out quite a fair bit. We didn't start the company then.
You did?
No, we didn't.
You didn't, okay.
When we came back to Singapore, that's when we actually got together. We ran a party. We call it the garage party.
The garage party.
That's when that was the first event that we
And was that after the digital garage business?
No. The garage party is for students. It was just a
The party in somebody's garage. Fair enough. So then when did E27 start?
From then onwards, we decided that look, people like to meet. At the point in time, it was very early. We were students.
What year was this?
This is way back. This is like 2008 to 2010.
So a long time ago.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we were just students, and we decided, look, nobody else is talking about this. Let's talk about companies.
Right.
Let's talk about startups. Let's talk about technology.
Right, you guys were really way ahead of your time.
Yeah, and let's
Right.
kind of organize meetups. And
Right.
when we have guests coming, let's throw them a party,
Right.
get everybody together.
Right.
And every time we do that, we find that startups want to join us. They want to say, hey, can I say something on my company? I
Right.
love that people use my services and things
So
like
this Echelon sort of event business kind of grew organically.
that. Yeah.
Started as a meetup, speakers wanted to come and say things, or you invited them, and then
Yeah.
the companies wanted to come and meet the speakers,
Yeah.
and then I'm presuming that investors said, hey, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
How can we get involved as well?
Yep. And the piece that we should mention as well is the corporates. So our first event was sponsored by Microsoft Singapore.
Wow.
For $2,000.
Right, for $2,000.
And we say, great, we have $2,000 now, we can
Now
give
what do
free
we do?
t-shirt.
Right, now what
yeah,
do we
we
do?
just printed a whole bunch of t-shirts and we
Right.
gave out. That's it. That's what we did the last time.
Well, what a
And we-
great way to start, right?
Yeah, and because of that, we realized that, look, it can be a company.
Yeah.
And we see that nobody else is doing this, and it's kind of like a need as well. And everybody is saying, look, let's do this bigger, let's do this bigger. And it evolved and evolved
But isn't
and
this
it became
the
a
thing?
monster. you see.
Isn't this the thing that it has become a monster actually,
Yes.
right? But isn't this the thing that you learn when you start a company? Is that in a way the company starts itself.
Yep.
You're doing a meetup, and you don't think let's turn this into a company. But now people come to you, and the more you do, the more you get sponsors, and the more it grows organically. And then you look at each other and say, "This is kind of turning into a business
Yeah.
because there's a need."
Yep.
So
And-
people ask me all the time, "How do I raise money for my company?" And I always say the same thing: build a product that everybody needs. It's
Yep.
so straightforward. So
Yep.
that's what you guys
Yeah.
did.
The market really is driving the needs
completely.
of this. Yeah.
Sorry,
And-
I interrupted you.
Yeah, so when we travel around the region, so
Yeah.
we're doing Kazakhstan conference next week.
Are you really?
Yes, I'm flying
Wow.
to Kazakhstan MRT next week.
Good for you.
And that's a need as well because they require a conference brand to bring together Central Asia guys.
Right, exactly.
And we didn't approach them. Oh, I have no clue where's Kazakhstan before I met
Neither
these
do I.
guys.
It
And they
doesn't
say,
matter.
look, can we use a brand? Let's gather the Central Asia guys. Let's try to achieve what you guys have achieved in Asia in the next 3 years in Kazakhstan.
Could be a massive amount of growth there for you guys as well,
so,
right?
so they came to us and we see that this is kind of like a mission for us to just connect all the tech entrepreneurs, the investors together,
Such a good idea.
the corporates together.
Such a
and
good idea.
Through media events, and lastly, we're building a platform as well. It's really just to make sure that this is done more efficiently throughout the entire year.
So when was, let's back up a little bit, when was the first year that Echelon as an event took place in Thailand, or in Bangkok, really?
2012.
Wow, how was it the first one? How many people were there? Do you remember? Approximately.
350. We held it
350
in
people. I remember it was in an
Bangkok
auditorium.
University.
Yeah,
Yes, Bangkok University. We did it there for 2 years.
yeah. Right, for 2 years. I remember it was in a smaller auditorium, 350 people.
Yeah. The only investor I remember was Ardent Capital.
I remember because
And-
I was there with Ardent Capital.
Yes, and Adrian Stewart was the other
Right,
guy.
Galaxy Ventures.
Yeah, that's it. Of
There
course,
was
there's some
nobody else.
corporates and all that,
Right, but there
that's
was
it.
nobody else back then.
Nobody
But
else.
so this was the other thing. So now, for this event in Thailand,
Yep.
how many people approximately will be there?
We have about 1,200 right now registered
So it's
for the entire conference.
almost 4 times bigger than it was
Yeah.
just 3 years ago.
Steady growth every year.
That's insane.
Yeah. We love the community here. Like, these guys are really serious about working together. We
Very
love
serious.
People talking to each other. It's very social here.
Yeah, I
People
find
are
it
willing
really
to
social
share.
here. And everybody, so I talk to people, as you know,
Yeah.
throughout the ecosystem, whether it's investors, angel investors, high net worth individuals, or even, the venture capitalists. I do
Yeah.
some VC investing myself.
Yeah.
And it's so inclusive.
Yeah.
And everybody that we talk to is helpful. I
Yeah.
need help doing this. Can you introduce me to Bill, whoever
Yes,
Bill is?
yes.
No one says no.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody.
I can tell you, Thailand is if you talk about communications and how within the ecosystem, is
Yeah.
one of the fastest
It's
here
so
in
good.
the region.
Yeah, and like you said, again, I was at the first one, and it seemed, in retrospect, it seems more quaint. Now it seems much more official and effective.
Yeah.
And yet, nobody seems to be getting a big head about it. Everybody's still really helpful. I
Yeah.
find it really super, this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very important milestone for us when we moved on to this conference size.
Right.
Is to make sure that the community are not forgotten.
Right.
We are recognizing 27 guys for their contribution since the early days,
Right.
since 2012.
Absolutely.
Is really to make sure that look, we constantly bring out and highlight key people
Right.
that has done a lot of work in the previous years.
Agreed.
And we appreciate the support that the guys have given us as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
When there were Echelon tickets to be sold, we tried to get people out to get them. We want people
Yeah.
to know that this was out there. We put it on our Facebook page, put it
Yeah.
on our LinkedIn page. We did everything we could to make sure that this event
Yeah,
was supported.
Yeah.
And clearly you and your teams have done all the work.
yeah.
And it's been nothing short of amazing, actually. We've
Yeah,
accomplished.
to me, the conference is driven by the community, the corporates that's here, the institutions that meet their community.
Absolutely.
We are just the intermediary layer, you know what I mean?
But you're doing a darn good job at being just an
Our
intermediary.
job is just to make sure that it happens,
Right.
but the driving force is from the market, is from the
So
industry.
what is the future of E27? You're now in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
You're moving into Central Asia.
Yeah,
Right. So different languages, different customs, all those things that you've learned by the difference between Indonesia and Vietnam and Malaysia and Thailand and
Yeah.
Singapore and the Philippines. So now you go to Central Asia, you go to Kazakhstan.
yeah.
So the event there happens in which language?
It's going to be English.
In English?
But for the Kazakhstan side, it's actually a licensing model.
Even better.
They license our brand because they see a need. So
Right.
we supported that because it's kind of ingrained in our company vision to help them. But for E27 as a whole,
Right.
we are very concentrated on Southeast Asia. We still
For sure.
would be looking at this region. And the future plans is really to create an online presence more and more while working with local partners in Thailand, Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Philippines,
Okay.
in Malaysia as well.
Okay.
Getting them up to speed, getting them to build conferences like this together with us while we rise up to be structuring, building a network of entrepreneurs, investors, corporates, governments online to
What a
make sure
great
that all
idea.
these connections
And
still
mixing those
happens.
people together online. Yes.
Yes,
So creating
yes,
an
yes.
efficient platform.
Yes, and
where
bring
people can
them
meet
offline.
online. Yeah. So
To the
get them
local-
to meet online.
yes.
Then take them offline and have them actually do some kind of transaction.
And constantly
with each other.
bring the engagement up and down.
Down. It's
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
And again, nobody else is doing that. But again, to be fair, you guys have been at the forefront of the development of this. So the fact that you're developing something new now
Yeah.
shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah.
Look, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Michael.
Really appreciate it. And we
Love to have this.
obviously would love to do anything we can to support the growth and the changes in your business from a Metaliq Media standpoint. We love the fact that you took the time to sit down with us and talk.
Yep.
And I look forward to being back here again next year.
Yeah.
And sitting down with you
Much
again.
bigger scale. I want to
Much
move
bigger.
downstairs.
Let's move downstairs.
Like
I want
the
you
photo
to
fair.
move downstairs. But next year we'll sit down again and talk, and we'll find out what's changed again.
Great.
I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Michael.
your time.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Great chat.
I'm sitting here with Michael GOOSSENS. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for the PYCO Group. He's recently moved to Bangkok from Belgium. Hi.
Hi.
How did I do?
Nice meeting you.
Was that okay?
Perfect.
So do you want to just tell us how we got to here, what the PYCO Group does basically,
So-
and why you're in Bangkok?
Sure. So PYCO Group is a digital consulting and software development agency.
Okay.
It was created in Belgium, started production, offshore production in Vietnam about 15 years ago.
So you've had a team in Vietnam for 15 years.
Yeah.
So tell me why 15 years ago you made a decision in Belgium to hire a team of digital people in Vietnam. 15 years ago, year 2000, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, so David and Ophir, when they started the company, were working with advertising agency back then. It was quickly they realized that there was a real need for a digital production that was not they could not find at a decent price already back in Europe. So they went around, visited a few places. They stopped in Vietnam because the level of English there and the quality of the university was really high already. I mean,
But even back then, with the technical skills that strong, I know today is a different story. And how many people do you have there?
today we have north of 350 developers in Ho Chi Minh.
That's a big team.
Yeah, it's
That's a big team. But back then, The quality was high.
They were already the quality was already quite good. I mean, as compared to what you needed in 15 years ago, of course, there's nothing to do with what you need today.
Fair enough.
So but it grew slowly but surely from one developer.
Were you the pioneers in this space? In other words, when you got there, was there competition to hire other people?
At the time, it was not really complicated to get people. Today, it's like
Must be
crazy.
so hard,
yeah,
right?
It is crazy. I mean,
Because,
yeah,
I know
also,
a Japanese team that also has 300 people there, 150 in Ho Chi Minh and 150 in Hanoi.
probably.
Yeah. So
It is getting very competitive, but the fact that PYCO has been there for 15 years now.
It's a well-known name.
Yeah, they have a reputation.
Super.
Always been around.
Right.
They know that we develop the teams as well. We give them, very good education as well on top of what they already know. So it's
so you're now moving. You're personally moving from Bangkok to open the office from Belgium, to move to Bangkok to open the office here.
Yes. So
And how long will you stay? Do you think?
well, it depends. It depends on the office
Good
how
answer.
it goes, but for me, it's a very interesting opportunity here in Southeast Asia. The fact that I relocated here is because we used to have most of our work was coming from the States and Europe,
Right.
and it kind of shifted completely without us doing any kind of sales jobs in APAC.
So shifted to APAC.
Yeah, 50% today is done in APAC, although
Wow.
we don't have any salesperson
here.
doing any. Yeah,
So
it was
what
word
can-
of mouth.
Right. So what can happen if you do have a sales team here?
Yeah,
can get
well,
much
it would
bigger.
grow much better probably, and also to develop the consulting practice that went along the way. We realized that a lot of our clients were asking for digital guys that were able to help them for a few months.
So can you be more specific? What type of digital development are you doing? In other words, are you writing code to develop applications, or are you writing websites, or
Exactly.
or all of it?
Anywhere from website, software development, or mobile applications. So we've done software for Atlassian, for example. We have a big team for Atlassian with developing Jira for them and Confluence. They're really big B2B software. We also have developed for Microsoft China, for example, the entire web shop for Microsoft.co.cn.
Okay, that's big.
So it's mainly big corporate
So
clients.
one of the things that I've noticed, and I've got a few friends in this business, is that after you have a team of 300 people, after you get all this development done, you kind of have these little pieces of things you can kind of piece together. So every development job becomes a little bit easier as you go along.
Yeah.
These components that you develop. But the other thing that I see trending is you kind of decide, wait, we're developing all this stuff for somebody else. Can we build our own applications?
Yeah, exactly.
So have you started doing that?
Yes, so there are 3 parts in PYCO. That's why we call it PYCO Group now from Pyramid Consulting. So you have PYCO Digital, which is the digital production, offshore production center.
Right.
With PYCO Consulting, which is mainly staffing and HR part. And then you have PYCO Ventures, made of 2 things. PYCO Ventures we have the BOTs, which is the model of bill of pay transfer. So if a company wants to have his own offshore production center, we create a separate legal entity, hire the team, get the offices, the materials, but
And
we
then
only
just-
marge up on the HR, and after a few years,
pass it on.
Yeah, just pass it on to the team, so they have their own production center.
Interesting.
And on top of that, we realized we had a lot of startups and people coming with great ideas. And we said, okay, why don't we just get shares in those companies and develop? We have the human resources. Why
do
don't
it.
we do that? So we did that with Follow-Up and with Luminaki.
So what does Luminaki do?
Luminaki is a kind of a digital memory of all your everything you put online could go back into one single app. So with APIs, you get everything you put on Facebook, everything you put on Twitter, everything. I mean, basically
Text and photos and videos and sound.
gets
Everything
back
you do.
into one single app, and then you can recreate and tag everything to make sure that you can find this information and you can decide to share it with.
So if I want to know
the
something that
proper
I
person.
posted on Facebook, I link all my stuff via an API through Luminaki,
To
which I'm
Luminaki.
sure I've mispronounced.
Yeah.
And then I can go there and use the tools that exist on Luminaki to search for things. So will it take me back to the place on Facebook where it was? Because the Facebook tools are terrible for searching. Twitter's the same way.
Yeah, but the idea here is to realize that you put so much information there, but you have no way to access it.
Absolutely.
Like today, we take pictures
No idea.
of basically everything,
idea.
and so it might be early, but I'm sure that we'll get there eventually. It's just to make sure that when people create pictures, notes, whatever, you just tag it in the proper way so that you can find it later. So we try to make it easier, like even giving you already a field for like recipes, field for like places, field for like, I don't know,
So
whatever.
different
super
categories that
yeah.
people will all normally create anyway. Got it. And so what is God's List? I was walking around and I saw that.
God's List is
kind of a ballsy
is a
name
new
for- kind of a ballsy name
infotainment.
for a company.
It's an infotainment platform basically made of snackable content.
What does that mean?
So it's very, very, very small ones in terms of top
10
five.
list, top five.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
even smaller than that, even shorter than that. You can go into details by clicking on the picture. You have videos as well that are linked into that. The idea we have, I don't know, there's like 10,000 lists already about different top 5. It can go from the the highest mountains, of course, which does not move every day, to the highest.
Every now and then maybe
every
it
now and
changes.
then maybe, but to the 5 highest sportsmen, whatever. And then after that, the idea is to get people to create their own list, like my top 5 restaurants in Bangkok, my top 5 bars in Bangkok, whatever.
Right.
And then to get people to share those. On Facebook, then people reacting to that. You can also, after that, kind of change the list as well to.
Super.
And the idea is to get data, of course, out of it. So
So let's get back to this Bangkok thing. So you've relocated here.
yeah.
And have you started building your office yet?
Yeah, we started the office are
Where is
here.
it?
We get the BOI. We're next to Central Chitlin, so really central.
So you've gotten the BOI.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, that
was going to be
my.
my free advice to you.
Yeah,
I won't charge
it's been
for that.
crazy.
And have you already started hiring staff as well?
No, we hiring not when we arrived with 3 people.
Okay.
We're already 1 extra, so there's going to be 4 of us now, and then now we're going to start to hire more Thai force, of course, in order to penetrate the Thailand market. But it's
If you're lucky,
Interesting.
you'll never leave.
That's what I thought. I mean, actually,
I think what you'll find here is that Bangkok is a really dynamic and growing city, right? And you'll see that the tech infrastructure here, the tech ecosystem, is probably a lot bigger than you might have thought it was.
Yeah, it is.
It's in my mind,
True.
it's a great jumping off point for the rest of the region. So if you're having an office in Bangkok as a hub, you already have development in Vietnam. You'll see, I think, a ton of business in Singapore for sure, but also in Malaysia and in Indonesia, and even in the Philippines. You're talking about a market with 600 and something million people in it.
Yeah,
And you're already doing a ton of business in the region's APAC, so that's maybe mostly China.
Yeah,
Here,
in Australia.
In Australia, yeah. Here, there are a few people trying to do what you were doing, but not at the same scale. Like I said, I know a Japanese team that has a certain amount of people there, but they don't have an office in Bangkok. Yeah,
Okay.
most of the stuff they do is development for back in Japan. But there's
It's
a massive
complicated,
opportunity, I
yeah.
think, for what you're doing.
No, and we really tried. I mean, analyzed the opportunity in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and everything. But Bangkok is really, for me, the perfect hub. They have the resources. They have. It's for us as well. If we want to get expats to come here and get into mission for consulting, it's always better to say you're going to relocate to Thailand than to other places, not to name
Nice and
them.
easy.
But and so virality. I started that with David, which is the founder of PYCO, one of the co-founder of PYCO.
And what's the target for virality?
It's really, we are like cross-market, cross-IDs. It's really seed and pre-seed investment.
So normal size ticket, $50,000, $100,000.
It's like we go from 50 to 250. Okay. So we do have large, because like Luminaki was a really big investment into the mobile app. But what we do is basically we say we put the money to get this first version out.
Fair enough.
So most of the money would be used through PYCO to make the development, of course.
I know the way this works.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, though, right? Because you invest money that you feed back into yourself, and they get the development resources.
And you get
already have.
an amazing team with great resources.
So
you're not stuck with this
It's
certain
win-win for
budget.
everybody, actually, right? It's not like you're investing money and telling them to use somebody you know nothing about, right?
No, and I mean it's not like we oblige the people
I
to do
understand that.
so. To do so, but I mean, if you,
Why wouldn't
they wouldn't have the same rate anyway. So
Yeah, it
there's
doesn't
no
matter.
way they
Right, so
can
in other
have
words,
access to.
They get a much cheaper rate because the upside's partially yours.
Yeah.
Anyway, this sounds really interesting. We should definitely keep in touch.
yeah.
And we thank you so much for sitting down.
Thank you so
and
much.
talking to us.
Thank you
This
for
is
having
really
me.
interesting, more interesting than I thought it was going to be, actually, but really great stuff. No, thank you.
No, definitely, and I'd love to get in touch. And
Yeah, we
with
should
the same
get in touch
city.
offline
Yeah.
and just
Excellent.
see where we can work together.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Hi, I'm sitting here with Patrick MONACO-SORGE. He's the CEO and the co-founder of PROMANDATE. This is a company that's been incubated by Inspire Ventures. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second with Patrick. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for sitting down and talking to us
Thank you very much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So you've been at Inspire now, or in some way, shape, or form, for how long?
I joined Inspire about a year ago.
Okay, about a year ago. And your original role was not doing this, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that was?
So the original role was I was responsible for the Inspire Venture Labs, so building the startup in-house.
So you were responsible for the whole labs business?
Yeah.
Great.
And so we started working on a few concepts, a few verticals, and the one related to services came up pretty obviously. And we focused on two different axes, one that was professional services and one that was consumer services.
I see.
And so PROMANDATE is, of course, the result of our vertical on professional services.
So how does that work? Let's say I need, I don't know, a lawyer or something. Like, what type of professional services does it work for?
So for the moment, we cover 4 verticals on PROMANDATE. We have legal, tax accounting, IT, web, and design.
Good guess.
So the way that it works, we try to make it extremely easy for you. You go you click legal part. Let's say you want a notary service. A questionnaire opens you with 3 or 4 questions max. We make it easy so you don't have to write. You just have to type the service that you want. And then it goes all the detail about your preferences, your budget, when do you need it, where do you need it, which language.
Right.
You're done, it takes 1 minute. And then it gets sent to all our supplier pool, which is segmented based on the notary service that we need.
Got it.
And every professional that is entrusted by helping you then gets back to you.
So do you have a sales force that goes out and kind of acquires service providers?
Yeah.
And what's it like when you go to a service provider and say, we're running this thing called PROMANDATE. We think we can increase your business by X% if you sign up with us. Then I presume you're taking some kind of fee from them. So it's free for the user, I'm guessing. And then you take some kind of fee from them. It's a really interesting business model.
It is. So just to divide it into 2, when we go and see the professionals, first of all, we want to talk with them and position ourselves as a partner. These people are looking for a customer all the time.
Right.
And any good business entrepreneur people wants to grow its business with more leads. So it's kind of easy catch for us. We've had a lot of 90% of professionals that we went to see were interested. And joined, and those who were not were still a bit reluctant about the online, but this is going to change.
What was their problem with the online business?
Oh, it's just that.
Is it just a trust factor?
Yeah, it's a lot of trust factor, and some people. We're talking about very old tax accounting law firm.
Fair enough.
That have absolutely no. That unfortunately are still not very used about the online and the fact that a lot of things are not being made online.
Right, they wouldn't even know because they probably don't even have connected computers in their office.
Well, they want to, we had a lot of early adopters, people that just tested it directly, and others that want to see just launch it, let's see how it's going, and then come back to see me, which is what we're doing, and then they join us. So it's more the step of, being that cookie monster, that early adopter that just takes the product and tests it out.
Right.
For web designers and IT people, it was very easy.
Simple, right? Because they know.
They know that they have a freelancer
They already know what their CPA is anyway, and if they can get CPA through you,
exactly,
and either pay the same thing or less, they're happy to do that.
Yeah, exactly. For lawyers, you know how lawyers are. I'm a lawyer myself, so
so you're a lawyer and an MBA.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I should leave now. I'm not even qualified to sit here and talk to you.
No problem. But one thing important with respect to the professional is the curation process they go through.
For sure.
There's a lot of service marketplace, not really B2B as we do, but there's a lot of service marketplace within which you get a lot of professionals. They're not always curated. There's not always a good correspondence between the demand and the supply, and that's something that we try to change.
So if I hire somebody using PROMANDATE, do I see service ratings as well?
Yes.
Is there that social aspect to it?
So if you hire a professional on PROMANDATE, you know that person went through a curation process. When I say curation, is that we check their background. So let's say there's lawyers come on a platform as a supplier. We request their ID, we request their diploma, we request 2 references from previous customers, and sometimes some employment certification. So the curation process is quite important.
It has to be, right?
Yeah,
and this is actually the power of the internet at work.
Yeah.
Right, because otherwise I just go into your office and I talk to you and I just kind of have to believe what's up on the wall in your office.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get 2 references on my own, but it's so much harder. This gives it scale that you couldn't get otherwise.
Yeah.
When we talk about scale, right now the business is operating in Thailand?
In Thailand, yeah.
What's the goal?
So the goal for the moment is of course we launched 8 weeks ago.
8 weeks ago.
So it's a very, we've learned so much, and there's already a lot of things that we see a lot of potential in B2B business. We saw that initially our target was mainly entrepreneurs, startups, and young SMEs, but we're actually seeing that like big corporate also have a lot of outsourcing needs.
So they come to you.
Yeah. Of course, corporate takes a bit longer to close the deal and
sure.
so on. But we really see that there's still this emptiness, this gap between the supplier. There's a lot of professionals in Thailand, of course, in all these areas, and there's a lot of SMEs. And we're talking about a country with 2 million SMEs,
Yeah.
But there's just the connection is not happening, and we try to fill that gap. So in terms of scaling up, clearly for the moment we are covering 4 verticals. We will be looking to add other verticals such as digital marketing, HR services, or even personal business improvement, like trainings, like interview trainings, like business English trainings, anything related to public presentation and so on. There's a lot of coaches that do that, and actually a lot of people that start to ask us.
The executive coaches do this all the time, and they have no
Exactly.
way to get. Well, they have ways to do it. But
Exactly.
There are better ways to get clients, right?
Yeah, totally. Even here at Echelon, a few people told me, hey, I'm providing training for business English to Thai people. Do you
Right.
have these verticals? Not yet, but if you have a lot of supply and there's a lot of demand, I will integrate it.
Why not, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. At the end, we want to be like a tool that is a partner for businesses, and that's the goal that we're aiming at.
So 2 more things. Do you expand to other countries, first of all? And second of all, who's competing with you, if anybody?
Yeah. So, I mean, with respect to countries, we of course want to focus a lot on Thailand in the sense that it's a business on which you want to build long relationship.
For sure.
In terms of other countries that we're interested, we're of course looking at Vietnam. Of course, we're looking at Indonesia.
Great.
Within which there's also a lot of growing business. In terms of our competitor, well, legal, tax, accounting, that sort of sphere of PROMANDATE, is still not really covered in the region.
No, I know, and I've talked to people about building this type of platform, but
Oh, there you go.
you're already doing it.
Yeah, we can still talk. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And then IT as well. Web and design, of course, is super covered. There's a lot of sites that are international. You have the 99 Design. You have the Fivers. Even
Yep.
freelance does that.
Yep.
But it's a lot of covered in the digital design, web design, and so on. And in Thailand as well, you have Thai SEO board. You have Freelancer Bay. There's a lot of stuff that do that, no problem at all. At the end, our customer are different and our quality is different.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a question, but it's actually irrelevant because you're not going to be in the C2B business.
No.
You're just getting businesses to connect either to other businesses
Right on.
and to get their services. Yeah.
So and based on this, for instance, that a lot of people come to me and they say, so how do you choose your freelancers? And I'm saying, well, it's not a freelancer.
No, that's the point, though, right?
Exactly.
It's an existing business.
It's a firm. It's a law
Right.
firm. They're there and they're looking for customers. It's
Right.
a digital agency. It's an IT shop that is looking to get more customers.
In a way, it's no different than what Paul McTaggart's doing over Medical Departures. He connects to doctors
Yep.
and builds the platform.
Yep.
And then he just goes back to doctors get patients.
Yep.
Same thing. It's an existing business. It's not like a new doctor or a freelancing doctor.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
we of course, in what is web and design, we have a lot of freelancers.
For sure, but that's not the point, right?
That's not the point.
What if they're doing
It's not
this
a
anyway?
freelancer. At the end, in our supply pool, there's more established business than freelancers, and the reason for that is that a lot of business they want to deal with real businesses. So
Yeah, exactly.
if for instance you are looking for a freelancer to do your website at personal title, it's okay. But if you with your business want to be dealing with a web designer, a lot of corporates, for instance, have requirement that there needs to be a minimal amount of registration. They need to be in
Right.
business for 2 years.
Right, they want to deal with businesses.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with freelancers.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Look, this is really great. I would ask you if you'd agree later to come back and do maybe like a full form on this, because I think there's a lot more that we could discuss
Yeah,
on this,
totally.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
We really want to thank you for sitting
Thank you
down
very much for having
today.
me.
No, and I learned something,
Yeah.
which is really good.
Good.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm sitting here with Bobby Liu. Bobby's Singaporean, based in Hanoi, in Vietnam. Bobby's the founder of an incubator and a co-working space called HUB.IT. Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for sitting down.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Do you want to talk about, you're from Singapore,
Yes, I am.
but you've been living in Vietnam, you said now, for
8 years.
or so years.
Yes.
So what was the genesis of the move from Singapore to Vietnam? And frankly, it's not that far away, but it is kind of a different living experience.
Okay. Well, first of all, moving to Vietnam is actually sort of coming full circle
Okay,
because I've lived in different countries before.
for sure.
I was in New York for 6 years.
Were you really?
Yeah, and then I moved to Papua New Guinea for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
This is the beauty, if you don't mind, this is the beauty of like our generation. I always find that the hardest question for me is where are you from?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
And I think you probably have the same thing. You were probably born in Singapore, but if you've lived in New York and lived in Papua New Guinea and now you live in Vietnam, like what?
Well,
It's just really interesting.
okay. Not to be philosophical about the whole thing, but
Please.
from young, I've always believed in this thing, and it's not an original quote of mine, but I came across it.
What is that?
Basically, it's like, okay, to me, the ultimate freedom is that, okay, while you cannot choose where you were born,
Right.
you can always choose where you want to belong.
Exactly.
So it should, and then I think this whole new economy, startups and all that, and getting like all these digital nomadic
Nomads, yeah.
entrepreneurs moving around is really slowly removing borders, and then really we are talking about. Not to be sinister about it, but it's kind of a new world.
It is a completely new world.
And you never know what happened. Maybe 100 years from now, there's no such thing as nationality.
I was just about to say the
Yeah.
same thing. So it actually changes the whole dynamic of what a government is and what a country is.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I can move freely throughout Europe or the United States or in Asia, where am I? Like, what am I?
Yeah.
Where am I from? It's a really good point.
Yeah, I think collectively, if this whole technology innovation is going the way it is, it's collectively, I think it will create the biggest disruption.
Absolutely.
Global disruption.
Absolutely.
And this is something that will actually benefit a lot of people.
I think actually more than any individual company that gets built, the structure that we're building about how country borders are kind of meaningless and governments are losing their impact on individuals and on localities, that's the biggest structural change and the biggest disruption in my mind, right? So sure, Facebook is great, those people are billionaires, that's neat and everything. And you'll build companies in your incubation space, right? And in your co-working space, that'll be amazing. But the real big thing that's changing is this concept of I can be anywhere. And no one can control me. Right? That's really interesting. And I actually think it makes the world a better place because think about it. You're from Singapore, you live in Vietnam, I'm from the United States, I've lived in Japan, I live in Bangkok. I have no problem with, and if you look at the crowd of people standing over there, they're from like 17 different countries.
Absolutely.
And they'll never argue with each other about petty things that governments argue about.
Yeah.
I actually think, if you want to talk about being philosophical, that it makes the world a better place.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
I think we've got to get back on topic,
Dude,
but let me finish this. I think we're having a better conversation. Yes.
This is the topic, actually.
What I really feel is that it's funny that growing up in Singapore, I find it harder to connect to people than I could connect to people who are global citizens.
Fair enough.
Especially in the last 5-6 years.
Yep.
That especially when Facebook came in, I'm connecting to people like this.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a click away.
Absolutely.
Right? And in your own home country, I guess every country has its own hierarchical
Absolutely.
corporate order.
Yep.
That you find it really hard to connect to the real people that you need to. But in a digital age, it's so simple.
Yeah, look, I'm not stopping this conversation, sorry, because I like this topic. I'll say this, the likelihood of you and I even knowing each other in a previous generation or even 10 years ago is so small.
Yeah.
But now, because the world's borders are dropping, now you and I, we're completely unknown people to each other, but now we can have this conversation because of tech and this structural disruption that you mentioned. I think it's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Really
No,
cool.
it is. Definitely is moving up there. Last week I was in Malaysia.
Okay.
And there's this guy, Faisal, and I would, give a shout out to him. His startup is called Border Paths.
Border
Paths.
paths, yeah?
So what he does is, the first step is to work with maybe the each country's immigration department.
Got it.
But what he's trying to do is to capture digital footprint of who we are when we travel.
Okay.
You know, it's got even a 3D imaging of who you are, so that if let's say you need to travel, and you know, unfortunately because of what's going on around the world,
Fair enough.
and let's say you're flying to say Malaysia,
Yep.
and you know all you need to do is to send in your application that you're traveling. They know when you're arriving, and they have your profile, so they're able to do a pre-screening.
Before you even arrive.
Yeah, you know, so I think in the long run, when you know majority of the people are adopting it, and they've shown the technology to be so advanced that they are able to differentiate between identical twins.
Wow.
Okay, apart from you know that being a great idea,
Right.
and what it can possibly do in the future, the founder himself, Faisal, is a great guy. I mean, if you talk to him, you think you have an interesting conversation with me now, wait till you talk to him. I mean,
sure
it's
I
going
will.
to blow your mind.
But the beauty of this
Yeah.
is that
And I just knew him 5 minutes.
I actually can
Yeah.
have this conversation with him.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of what's
Yeah,
going on now.
exactly. You know,
Right.
so for example, that is going to greatly disrupt how we view personal security.
Absolutely.
Travel. That's going to remove a lot of the restrictions that we think we have
Or we should have.
or
even.
implement it.
Right.
The immigration side, for example, of each country, you know, if they were to adopt this technology, they're going to relook at the way how they clear customs.
Right.
You know, making things a lot more efficient, making things a lot smoother.
Yeah, I mean, look, the risk disintermediation, it's scary, right? Because in the wrong hands, as always, this type of technology can be used for bad things.
Sure.
But as we talked about before, if you remove the governments out of the equation and just let individuals deal with each other, something like border pass is actually really powerful. Because for people that don't do anything wrong, they don't care.
Yeah.
They want to give away their information so that when they get to Malaysia or they get to Singapore or they get to Vietnam, they just waltz into the country and go.
Yeah.
Because all the other stuff is for the 0.05% of people that are going to do something wrong.
Yeah.
And it ruins the rest of our lives.
I know. I mean, really, is there anything that you want to hide from anyone?
Nobody. Nothing.
You know, so this whole thing
Nothing.
about personal information, divulging of personal information, I think it's a little bit overblown.
Yeah, look, I agree.
If you put your name on Facebook,
Right. Well, I always say this. if you post something on Facebook,
Yeah.
it's like standing in this town square and screaming at the top of your lungs.
Yes.
So don't complain later when you say I lost my privacy.
Yeah.
If you don't want people to know about it,
don't use.
keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Privacy is very easy.
Yeah.
But there's certain information that's actually useful for other people to know. Like I don't have a criminal record. Like
Right.
I've never dropped a bomb on anybody.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I'm an easy traveler. These things I think are really easy to do and very important, and I don't mind if people know that. Yeah?
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about your,
Whatever.
about your incubator?
Sure.
So you started this 2.5 years ago,
Yes.
you said. And
Yes.
what's the goal? You're trying to incubate textile, new economy style companies?
Okay. All these were sort of an afterthought,
Fair enough.
right? But the fundamental reason why I opened a co-working space is that myself personally, I love working in the open.
Yeah.
I love working in a cafe, for example,
right.
and that and because I've always been in the creative field,
Right.
and I find that working in the open, gives me a lot more creativity.
Okay.
Sharing of information, people looking at what you're doing and then they're commenting and then you're learning. So obviously, there have to be a few ticks on the boxes, right, to be in that mode. So then I see how Vietnam is actually progressing with more and more, young Vietnamese being exposed, coming back to Vietnam after they finish their overseas education,
Right.
and more foreigners are going there. So there's so the fundamental thought was that there is a need for such a space, right?
Yeah,
to sort of remove the fact that doing business is actually or reducing the cost of doing business, and also giving the opportunity for young startups to network. So when I was planning that, right? So obviously I took a lot of inspiration from the US, the co-working movement. But then I didn't realize. Then I found out actually that pretty much in Asia, co-working space as a community, okay, doesn't quite work like in the US.
Why is that?
Okay, for example, in the US, simply because of the critical mass.
Okay.
Okay, say for example, if I want to set up a space and focus on origami, I will have a big enough community of origami enthusiasts coming together. Right. Here, I don't think we have that.
Not yet, for sure.
So what I noticed that in Asia, we pretty much have co-working spaces that are sort of one way, small or big way, affiliated with tech. Okay, so that was what I noticed. Then obviously in Vietnam, I just saw this whole tech ecosystem growing, right? So I kind of make use of the opportunity. The other thing, and the other thing why I also did that was, going back to 2011, I told one of my partners in another business that I said to him, I really want to work with the millennials, and he asked me why. I said, in what? I said, I really don't know what and why, but I just have this gut feel that I want to work with them because I realized that the next 20 years belong to them.
Exactly.
While we have all the experience that we can share with them, and so for me, so there was that that sort of back of my thought, and through some fortuitous opportunities, I got to mingle with the young people.
Right.
And
I do this all the time.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Advising, mentoring, and all that. Yep. So that got that in for me into the tech ecosystem, and then so moving forward to now, 2.5 years, 3 years later, I realized that the more I talk to the young people, the more I realize that I do not know anything.
Right. Well, definitely the more you learn, right? And the idea is, at least for me, is that if you're talking about the millennials, it's just like when you were their age.
Yeah.
The people that were your age at that time, it was incumbent upon them to listen to your ideas. Most of them didn't. But the people that did actually gained something. And when you reach a certain age, you realize, I remember what it was like to be 25. I had some really kick-ass ideas. And what you do is you facilitate the creation of those ideas. And that's actually really important. It's almost like a responsibility you have. Right? You almost have a responsibility to do that co-working space and to do this incubation, because while they're energetic and filled with ideas, they're not focused. And that's a generalization for sure, because some millennials are super focused. But the idea is if you can give them the right sort of guidance, you talk about really powerful ideas coming to fruition.
Oh yes, it's been fantastic. Fantastic the journey forward. Like I said, if you realize that the next 20 years is something that's so new, and how everyone always says what I knew then, what I know now.
Yeah. If I knew then,
I'm actually living that right now.
Exactly, because that's exactly what I do though. Because I say, if I knew then what I know now, what I do is I give that away.
Yeah.
So that people that don't have it will know now what they will only know later.
Yeah.
I give that away for free.
Yeah. And when you adopt that attitude, you actually get to learn a lot more.
Tons.
And then, for me, it's like, all right, the next 20 years, what I'm going to do basically comes from the ideas of that I share with the young people.
Do you blog as well?
Very lazily, I do. Very lazily. Yeah, but then to get myself out of that, lazy comfort zone, I've actually, I will be launching. If you don't mind me.
Please, I'm asking because I want to know. I've heard that you do some blogging, and
I will actually be launching a blog site called Startup Journey.
Startup Journey.
So,
.com?
.xyz.
.xyz.
Yeah.
Startupjourney.xyz.
Yeah.
Okay,
so the reason why it's .xyz because it's a dot whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Like it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't matter.
So the whole idea of this is to focus more to humanize startups.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because especially in Asia, I think we tend to get bombarded with great stories, great successes, great funding rounds.
Right.
But you realize that you actually don't learn anything.
You miss the story.
You definitely
miss the story.
Right.
Because for everybody that fails, actually, for everyone that succeeds, there are probably 10 or 20 failures or
Yes.
more. But those failures are actually really educational and also very interesting. And it's a failure, but in what sense, right? Like, okay, so this company maybe didn't succeed to the extent that you wanted it to, but I would say that anything that you learn from that experience is a success in and of itself, right? And that's really important. And again, it gets back to what you were saying before. The new economy allows you the ability to fail and not have it be fatal. That's really important.
Yeah. So, so from an Asian context, so hopefully that will help startups to gain some traction in terms of like publicity.
Right.
Let them have a backstory of what they've done.
Super.
Again, to sharing common issues.
Yep.
I mean, once they're successful, then obviously whatever you say, is true. But when you're not that much of a success yet, a lot of times you still need to prove yourself.
Absolutely.
But it's a whole learning process, I believe. So every stage, of that journey itself, I believe somehow has to be documented.
And when are you launching that?
Probably second week December.
Second week December. So that's startupjourney.xyz. Look, I feel like we could continue this conversation
I know, right?
forever.
Yeah.
We just turn off the camera, go get a beer, and just
Exactly,
keep
right,
talking.
yeah.
But I really want to thank you.
No, thank
for
you very
sitting
much.
down.
Yep.
I've seen you walking around actually for the last couple of days.
Oh, okay.
I'm really interested to talk to you, and I'm really glad you agreed to sit down and talk to us.
Great, thank
Really,
you.
thank you so much, brother.
Well, we can bring this conversation after this.
We definitely will.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Good. All right.
I'm sitting with TEERANUM SRIHONG, the president of KASIKORN Bank. We're going to talk about banking and finance in Thailand. We're going to talk a little bit as well about how fintech and the modernization of technology fits into the banking sector in Thailand and the rest of Southeast Asia. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and taking the time to sit down with us to talk about the impact of technology in finance and banking, both in Thailand and in the wider region of Southeast Asia. I really appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. Now, just for a little background for me, I spent about 20 years in securities trading at companies like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. And my forte really was taking technology and the trading businesses as a trader and using it to collapse in a commission-taking business the cost of doing the next trade to zero. So it meant that as we did more and more trades, as technology made us more productive, we were able to make more commission even at lower commission rates. So the productivity that we gained by using technology allowed us to make more money. So I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit from your perspective about how banks in Thailand are using technology and what you think the impact of fintech that is being developed outside the bank is going to be on the banking and finance sector.
We're looking at how digital technologies can benefit us in three forms, actually.
Three forms.
First is the same thing, higher productivities,
Right.
better efficiencies
Right.
on our operations.
Right.
So the general process automations, general process re-engineering, which we have been trying to do that for the last 30, 40 years.
Right. I mean, it's a process, right?
It is the process. It's still the key thing, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not just the process, it's about how decision can be made faster.
Absolutely.
With more, better information and all that. That's one thing. Second thing is on improving our interactions with our clients, both in terms of products and services, right? How relationship managers can have these tools so that they can know more about customers and use that information to have deeper discussions and bringing proper solutions to customers.
So
for
to help
example.
facilitate the KYC, the know your customer stuff.
Yeah, KYCs and also the general interactions so that we can actually start custom tailoring our solutions to fit particular problems.
Right. I mean, if I understand the client base for KASIKORN Bank, it's going to be very important for them to get customized solutions and not just off-the-shelf solutions.
That's right.
So using technology to do that is going to be really important.
Yeah.
When you look around the market now and you look at fintech companies that are building technology outside of your banking infrastructure, What's your view on how you perceive them and the impact it's going to have on you, and maybe the potential to maybe collaborate or work together with them?
And that's the third area. Actually, we're looking at the digital technologies to help us also maybe getting into a new market or new offering or new type of services or products.
Understood.
That we, under the old structures, we cannot, right?
Right.
So, because these technologies can open doors to many things.
Right.
For example, serving the underserved markets
For
more
instance,
efficiently,
For instance,
like the micropayments,
perfect. Okay.
even like area like peer-to-peer lending.
This is what I wanted to ask you about, actually.
Peer-to-peer lending to us is, I mean, person-to-person lending. It has been there.
So it might.
And banks have never been able to capture into that kind of value chain.
So I've been thinking a lot about peer-to-peer lending recently, actually, and it seems to me that a bank that deals with high net worth individuals and also very successful SMEs that may have cash flow problems is probably already matching,
Yeah, we do.
right, on a non-kind of scalable business. So your customer service agents know this person and know this SME, and they probably connect them at some level with some slightly higher interest rate.
Yeah.
But if you could build a platform that does peer-to-peer and connect them seamlessly, this is what we were talking about before. Now you have a scalable business.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And that,
That facilitates that.
can also be scaled down to the micro peer-to-peer lending also, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can
And
do a
that-
whole bunch of things around
and
payables,
that
receivables.
is a huge market.
It's a
by
huge
itself.
business as well, and I agree with you. I actually think that business is already happening, but it's happening slower because the technology hasn't been built yet to facilitate it. So do you have a view on crowdfunding? And particularly crowdfunding as it applies to sort of fixed income products as well, not just peer-to-peer, but larger size loans for your clients to invest in maybe housing loans on a kind of a peer-to-peer basis, but more on a crowdfunding basis. And then afterwards we can talk about the equity business
That's
as well.
also another interesting area that
Right.
we're looking at on
Okay.
how we can participate at the moment. And crowdfunding is not just on the lending side.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about crowdfunding, we can talk about like charity donations.
Absolutely.
We can talk about some kind of social projects,
CSR.
CSR,
Right.
entertainment.
Right.
Right. We just actually team up with a new crowdfunding platform called Aciola.
Aciola.
Just a few days ago,
Understood.
actually, and they are doing actually they're allowing artists to fulfill their dreams by having this crowdfunding platform
Right.
to connect with their fans
Right.
and their and the people who wants to support their missions.
This is really interesting. So the bank also uses technology, or uses other people's technology to facilitate this real CSR stuff,
Yeah.
to participate in the arts and to promote the arts as well.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
How about on the equity side?
Equity side, we're looking at that at the moment. I think we're still waiting for a clear regulatory guideline on that.
This is the other thing I wanted to ask
Yeah,
you about.
yeah.
Yeah, you must do some work on the regulatory side.
Yeah.
Because right now the regulations don't actually facilitate or kind of directly allow for equity crowdfunding per se.
I would say they're catching up and they're
Right.
trying to catch up very fast. Actually.
Right. And when you do that, and when you're discussing this with the regulators, do you use global best practices to try to tailor the Thai laws to the local market, or are you just trying to do it on a regional basis?
Well, we're focusing on Thailand at the moment,
Right.
and but our approach is actually working with them to ensure that we have a proper framework for Thailand,
Right.
which has its own unique characteristics. right?
Absolutely.
So, importing the Western type of laws may not be fully applicable. So we're working with them on how to actually taking some of the good concepts there and
Right.
apply it here,
Right.
so that we can really fit what the status of the market is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that each individual country has its own sort of idiosyncrasies, and that the legal system and the regulatory environment has to be built around those things,
Yeah, it's
as
true.
opposed to just importing something from any other, even a neighboring country.
That's right.
It's very
That's
different.
right.
So I'm a
And
really
each
firm
country
believer.
has different problems that they want to solve.
Yeah, or just different issues that need to get resolved, right?
I strongly agree.
Yeah.
Look, I really thank you very much for sitting down and talking with us
Thank
today. I
you.
don't want to
Thank you
take up
for
so
having
much of your
interest with
time.
us.
But it's very interested in fintech. I've kind of been involved in fintech my whole life.
Yeah.
It was really interesting for me to get your perspective on how that was going to work in Thailand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.